Okay, welcome to Module 4, Lesson 6, Solutions of a Linear Equation in Mrs. Richards' class. Please keep in mind, while we're doing this lesson, that there are some teachers that would prefer you to use the traditional method of solving linear equations. So if you are watching this and you're not in my class, a teacher may require you to do it a little bit differently. But I'm going to show a method that is a little non-traditional and it's very visual, so I think it helps out a little bit. So starting on page 17 with exercise 1, you have quite a long equation here and we want to solve for x. So find the value of x that makes the equation true. In order to do that, the first thing you need to check for in here is parentheses. And we want to get rid of those parentheses. So we need to distribute anything that's on the outside of them. So what I do is I check each number. So starting with 17. 17 is not next to a parenthesis, so we're just going to keep the 17 as is. Now 5 is right next to a set of parentheses, and it's actually a negative 5, so we are going to distribute that 5 by multiplying. So we're going to say negative 5 times 2x would be negative 10x, and then negative 5 now times negative 9 is positive 45. We're going to keep the equal sign, and now here is something a little strange. This minus sign in front of a parenthesis, that really means it's negative 1 that we have to distribute. So I'm going to actually change this to negative 1 here, and that's always true. And I'm going to distribute that one. Negative 1 times negative 6x gives you positive 6x. Negative 1 times 10 gives you negative 10. Oops. And then this 4 is out here. It's not part of the distribution and not part of the parentheses, so we're going to put that on the end. Now, this is the part where, depending on the teacher you have, they may or may not let you use this method. So we want to solve for x. That means we want to know what x equals. And we need to get x on one side of the equation, and we need to get all the numbers on the other. So what I like to do is I like to split the equation at the equal sign. And I like to label it. So x's are all going to go on the left, and numbers are all going to go on the right. And the only rule here is if you switch sides with a number, or an x, then you have to switch the sign of that term. Meaning if it's positive, it becomes negative, or negative becomes positive. And I'll show you what I mean here right now. So we're going to start with 17. 17 is a number, so it goes on the right side. It goes in the number category over here, and it crossed this purple line, so that means it's now negative 17. We have to do the opposite. X is on the right, so negative 10x stays there, and we're going to keep it negative. 45 is a number, which means it needs to go on the right side, and we're going to make it negative because it crossed the line. 6x is going to go on the left side and become negative because it crossed the line. Negative 10 stays here and stays negative, and 4 stays here and stays positive. Now, when you get to this point, we are going to add each side individually. So we're going to start with negative 10x plus negative 6x, and that gives us negative 16x. And then we're going to put our equal sign back down, and now we're going to add all of these numbers. Negative 17 plus negative 45 plus negative 10 plus 4. And if you can't do that in your head, use a calculator. But if you add that up, you get negative 68. And then the last step is always going to be to multiply or divide to figure out what x is, because really you want x alone. So you're all the way to the end now. Negative 16 now, we're going to divide both sides by negative 16 to get that x alone. And so now we have x equals negative 68 divided by negative 16 is 4.25. And that's how you solve such a long equation here. And again, there are teachers that are not going to want you to use this chart method, but if you are in my class, I encourage you to use it until you feel comfortable with the operations, and beyond that, actually. So we're going to do another one here. Number 2 looks a little harder because you have this fraction of 5/3 in there. I'm going to tell you, don't be afraid of fractions. We'll deal with them as we go, and I'll show you how to use your calculator with those. But the first thing I notice in here is we have a negative in front of the parentheses, and if you remember from the earlier example, that is a -1 then. Okay, and also I like to tell students that if there's an x or a y or a variable without a number, also put a 1 in front of there too, so that you know that that's 1x. So there's 2 areas we have to do that. Okay, so we're going to start the same way. We need to get rid of the parentheses. -1 has to be distributed. So -1 times 1x is -1x. And then -1 times -7 is +7. And this 5/3 is not part of our doing the distribution, so we're going to put that down as is. And we're going to put down our equal sign. And now the 2 is attached to this parenthesis, so we have to distribute that as well. 2 times 1x is 2x. And then 2 times 9 is going to be +18. Okay, and so now you have an equation that has no parentheses in it, and if you desire, you can use the chart method again, which I'm going to show again on this one as well. So I'm going to divide this up. I'm going to make my left side x's, my right side numbers, and I'm going to put everything in their category. Remember, the rule is if you cross that center line, you have to change the sign. You have to make it opposite. So -1x stays on this side, so we'll keep it -1x. 7 is a number, so we have to cross the line and make that -7. 5/3 is also a number, so we're going to cross the line and make that -5/3 over here. 2x is an x, so we're going to make that -2x because we crossed the line. And 18 is where it needs to be, so we're going to keep that +18. Then we're going to add each side individually. -1x plus -2x is going to give you -3x equals now -7. Now what do we do with this -5/3? If you're using a calculator, a scientific calculator, you can use your calculator to put it in there. You can literally type -7 plus, and to do a fraction now you use a parenthesis, -5 divided by 3. That's what a fraction is. It's actually a little division. End parenthesis, and then add the 18. And if you put that all in there, and I'll show you on my calculator here. So -7 plus parenthesis -5 divided by 3, end parenthesis, plus 18, and press equal. You get 9.3 repeating, and if you're familiar with fractions to decimals, that's 9 1/3. But I'm going to put it down like this, 9.3 repeating, and I'm not going to clear it out of my calculator yet because there's one more step and I don't want it to be rounded incorrectly. So the last step, if you recall, is to divide here. We want to get rid of this -3, so we're going to divide by -3 here and divide by -3 on this side. So I'm just going to hit divide by -3, and I get -3.1 repeating. And that way you don't have an incorrectly rounded answer because you used the parentheses with the fraction and you didn't clear that out. There's one last one I'd like to go over for this lesson because it is a unique one, but I'm going to skip a little bit in the interest of time. So I would like to go to page 18, the next page, and I just want to go over number 4 so that we can see how we have some different things that go on here. Okay, so number 4 starts out looking like the same type of equation in here. The first thing we need to do again is get rid of the parentheses. So we're going to start by distributing. 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times 4 is positive 20. This minus 2x is not part of those parentheses, so we're going to just put it down. Equals 7x is not next to a parenthesis, so we're going to put that down. The negative 3 now is, so we're going to distribute. Negative 3 times negative 2x is positive 6x. Because a negative times a negative gives you positive. And now negative 3 times positive 11 is negative 33. Once you get there, no more parentheses, you can do your chart again. So I'm going to divide this up. X is on the left, numbers on the right. Okay, 15x stays here. 20 has to go in the numbers. We cross the line, so it's now negative 20. Negative 2x stays here and stays negative. 7x needs to go in the x's, so we're going to cross the line and make it negative 7x. Same thing with 6x. Cross the line and make it negative 6x. And negative 33 is already where it needs to be, so we're going to keep it there and keep it negative. Now we're going to add these up. 15x plus negative 2x plus negative 7x plus negative 6x, oh my gosh, is 0x. Weird. But we're going to see what that means in a second. On the other side, negative 20 plus negative 33 is negative 53. So now you're thinking, what can I multiply 0 by to get negative 53? And the answer is nothing. You can't. And the way we kind of check that, the next step would be to divide by 0. And we all know you cannot divide by 0. Even if you try that in your calculator, which I'll show you. Maybe I'll show you. Negative 53 divided by 0. Oh, it says it's an error, and that's correct. We don't divide by 0, so this says error, and the answer then to a problem like this is no solution. There is no solution to this problem. So that is a unique situation that can sometimes happen, and we have to kind of look out for that. Okay, I know that we went pretty fast, and there's other examples. If you need more help, please make sure you see me at some point, either at lunch or before school. Okay. Hope everybody has a fantastic day.